Thinking about moving to Vancouver, you're most likely thinking about living in downtown Vancouver, or at least what is it like? So in this video, I'm gonna break it all down for you. I'm gonna explore all 5 of the downtown neighborhoods. We're gonna have a look at them on the map. I'm gonna show you where the properties are, where the homes are, where you might wanna live, and what it's like to live in each of those neighborhoods. And most importantly, really, where you don't wanna live. We're gonna get after it right now. All right, so here we are with the city of Vancouver, and the city of Vancouver is right here. That is just one small part of the Lower Mainland. As you can see, there's just under 700,000 people that live in the city of Vancouver out of roughly 2.5 million that live in this entire region. But what we're talking about right now is downtown Vancouver, and that's an even smaller part right down here, and it's the peninsula. Basically this area is what we're going to be talking about, downtown Vancouver. And there's about 70,000 people that live on the downtown peninsula, so roughly 1/10 of the entire city. It's less than 4 square kilometers out of 110 square kilometers for the entire city, but it is also the most densely populated. And in fact, it's the most densely populated place in Canada with I think it's about 18,000 people per square kilometer. It's even more dense than Toronto, than Montreal, obviously Calgary, Edmonton, all those cities. So the most densely populated place in the entire country is right here in downtown Vancouver. It's the epicenter, it's the heart of the city of Vancouver. But like I said, it's less than 4 square kilometers, so it's not very big. It's roughly 10 blocks by 20 blocks. You can walk across it probably in about 45 minutes. Run across it even faster, obviously, but there's a lot of diversity from one side to the other, and that's what we're going to be talking about, what these different communities in the downtown core are. And to break that down, basically along here and along here. So over here, that is the West End. This is Cole Harbour. This is Gastown, Chinatown, downtown Eastside. And then over here we have Yaletown. And those are 4 very distinct areas, very distinct neighborhoods. And we're going to get into it right here. Cole Harbour. So again, with the downtown core, the downtown peninsula, we're going to be looking at Cole Harbour up here, roughly. You can see that downtown is at an angle. But basically this north of Georgia would be considered Cole Harbour. And pretty much when you're west of Burrard, but we're going to consider a little further than that. Yeah, let's call it maybe Seymour down here. But this whole area is called Cole Harbour. It's oriented towards the water. You can see there's no beaches here. Cole Harbour has a lot of marinas and borders on Stanley Park and the downtown core. That's this yellowish area. So more office buildings toward this southeastern end, but in the northwestern end of Cole Harbour, it's very exclusive luxury type of condominium living. There are some townhouses in this area, but more geared towards condos, larger condos. The buildings are very exclusive, have really nice amenities, larger units in this area. So you're going to find 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms kind of more often. There are some areas where you're going to find, like right along Georgia, there's some buildings built maybe 20 years ago where they're less exclusive, but the waterfront is very exclusive. An area that I think if you're geared towards the luxury, if you value being able to get out of the downtown core very quickly, heading up to Whistler, maybe you got a place up in Whistler, heading out to Horseshoe Bay to get over to the island, being accessible to Stanley Park, but also very accessible to downtown, to the offices. And then just along Hastings, you can get out onto the highway quite easily. But it's such a beautiful area. I'm going to take you into the waterfront here, and we can look at some of the buildings. This, unfortunately, is a bit of a drab day in February. Come on, there we go, loading. So you can see, these buildings have big concrete buildings. It's not incredibly dense in this area. There's more parks, more green space, and like I said, these exclusive buildings along the waterfront. And over here, Now we're on the seawall. This is the Weston Bay Shore, so it's actually not a condominium. That's better. August. A little more sunshine, looking at its best. And you can see the waterfront is quite busy. This is Stanley Park, the green in the middle ground, and the North Shore Mountains in the background there. So if you have a boat, if you want a little bit of a quieter neighborhood, a little more exclusive, this is going to be an area that you're going to really enjoy. And there's some very nice restaurants, cafes along this waterfront. I'm just coming up to Cardero's. There we go. Move along. That's Cardero's right there. Great place for a drink on a summer's day or a winter's day as well, right on the water. And then more of these, exclusive condominium buildings right along this waterfront. So prices are going to be the highest of anywhere in downtown, right along here, and especially for these exclusive waterfront buildings. So these are going to be based along this corridor, and then a little further back along Georgia, you're going to find a little more affordable, predominantly actually pretty heavily investor oriented. You can do very well with investment units along there, but you can see again all this green space in Cole Harbour, something that the people that live around here really enjoy and are able to take advantage of. Real quickly, if you're getting any kind of value out of this video, give me a thumbs up. Really appreciate it. And if you want to see more videos like this, I put out videos about Vancouver, what it's like to live here every single week. So subscribe and you won't miss a single one of my videos. And we're going to go right back to the video right now. Number 2, the West End. And really the West End is probably the largest area on the Downtown Peninsula. And it takes up basically this whole area. You can see the West End right there. And the West End is the original high density neighborhood in the city of Vancouver. In fact, when my parents immigrated to Canada in the 60s, this is where they came to before I was born. It's a pretty common location for new people to the city to move to. Similar, I've mentioned in one of my other videos, Kitsilano is kind of the same thing. Kitsilano on the West End attract the stereotypical Vancouver neighborhoods where you have access to the water, to the beaches, and to the mountains, and just the natural beauty of the city. So the West End borders most directly onto Stanley Park. And then it's one of the few communities in Vancouver that has direct beach access. So you have Sunset Beach and English Bay Beach, which I used to call First Beach. And then there's Second Beach and Third Beach up here in Stanley Park. The West End has all types of, like, a very diverse housing stock, a lot of older options. So originally, before strata condominiums, we had co-op buildings, and those were built in the 50s and 60s. So those buildings are available and are at a cheaper price point. You're going to get more for your money. And then we also have many leasehold buildings throughout the area and freehold condominiums and townhouses. So there's a diversity of types of ownership, and then there's also a diversity between condos and townhouses, large and small units, old and new buildings, expensive and less expensive. So pretty much the whole gamut of price range. In fact, just the other day, I sold a leasehold property in the West End for $335,000. It's a lot of money for many markets, but in Vancouver, that's pretty much the lowest end of our market, the most affordable end. And you can also see $5 million, $6 million, $10 million condominium penthouses in the West End. So it runs that enormous gamut of price. And I have clients right now looking in this sort of vicinity, and we're looking at $2 million condos. And incidentally, this west of Denman is so beautiful. I always find when I go into the West End that I feel like I'm on vacation when I'm in this west of Denman area. So you can see not as many parks really scattered throughout the West End, but there are some, and some green space. In fact, right here at Nelson Park, you have the farmers market. Obviously, this beach access is something that a lot of people are drawn to, and it's not just people that live here, but also people from all parts of the city will be drawn to the West End beaches. And the swimming pool, Second Beach swimming pool, it's one of the places that I learned how to swim when I was a kid. It used to be salt water. I don't think it is anymore, but we could double check on that. But this is a beautiful swimming pool. It's right on the water. A great place in summer. And Stanley Park is just so lovely. North America's largest city park, one of its oldest. I think it's 10% bigger than Central Park. We're just so lucky to have this beautiful park right at the doorstep of the city. And for the residents that live in the West End and just in the Downtown Peninsula in general, it's a real treat to have that access. Davie Street, Denman, and Robson are your main commercial strips. So you see right here a couple of these older buildings. A lot of these sort of smaller, you don't see as many high-rise condominiums. Generally, you're seeing 4 to 6 stories, maybe 10 or 12. And then some of the older buildings might get up to 20, and some of the newer ones as well, sort of in that height range. But yeah, you can see this is an older building that has been rehabilitated a bit, and we're just heading down the hill to the water, to False Creek down there. And here we are on Davie. So right here you can see a new building that's just recently been completed, Davie Village. This is incidentally also one of the most friendly to the LGBTQ communities. It's got a very strong presence in the area, so a very open-minded, welcoming community, and a very vibrant street sort of life on Davie as well as on Denman. And here we are on Denman. You can see all sorts of small shops, little places to get food, ethnic restaurants, great restaurants actually, and cafes, shops. And what people love about the West End is really that accessibility, the connection to downtown, but the fact that it's relatively affordable, getting so much. I mean, honestly, it's one of my favorite neighborhoods. If I didn't have 4 kids, I'd probably be living in the West End. I love the convenience of the place. I love the connection to the outdoors, and everything's really just at your doorstep for a really good value.
Number 3, Yaletown.
So Yaletown is in this quadrant down here. It's probably the liveliest. It's got the most vibrant nightlife. You have Granville Street, you got Richards, Yaletown itself. So you got some clubs, you got some places to party, you got bars, and Yaletown also has really high-end restaurants, really nice bars to hang out in, and then great shopping as well. And you also have BC Place Stadium, and you have GM Place, or now it's called Rogers Arena over here. So the sports arenas are in this corner of downtown, and then you have this orientation to the waterfront as well. So you can see along the water the parks. There are, again, no beaches in Yaletown. The West End is the only part of the downtown core that has beaches, but really lovely parks. The seawall, I should have mentioned, runs all the way around. It goes, basically starts around here, and you can walk all the way around Stanley Park and come back all the way around the downtown core. In fact, you could keep going through Olympic Village over here, through Fairview, over Granville Island, into Kitts, and it ends somewhere over here. If you're really persistent, you could keep going out to Spanish Banks and to UBC as well. It's not all directly on the water anymore, and you'd have to do some beach walking at that point. But you really can spend an entire day traversing the whole shoreline, and it's actually a really fun thing to do, and there's lots of places to stop, lots of beauty, lots of interesting things, and fantastic people watching. But back to Yaletown. Yaletown is, like I said, more nightlife, a little more urban, I'd say, oriented, and a bit of a younger crowd. There's a newer sort of housing stock, predominantly condos, quite a bit of townhouses, and then you also have some interesting loft conversions in the Yaletown core here, which is a historic district. So it used to be a warehouse district that through Expo 86, around that time, it was redeveloped into housing, and kind of became, the trendy spot from the 90s onward. And most of this area is fully developed now. We're not seeing too much new development in this area. So most of the buildings are built in the late 90s to 2015 or so. Some really nice buildings. There's a little more luxury down here by the waterfront, kind of all these buildings along the waterfront, and you can have some fantastic views. You're not getting the mountain views here. If you're wanting mountain views, really you want to be in Cole Harbour, some areas of the West End. In Yaletown, most of the views are going to be to the south, so towards the city of Vancouver and overlooking Falls Creek. There is a marina here, Eastside Marina, and some beautiful parks. Let's just take a quick look what it looks like in Yaletown. So this is that historic district, and as you can see, these buildings are smaller, and because it is a historic district, these buildings are protected. And if you're on any of the buildings in here, you know that your view corridors are protected. And if you're in any of the buildings surrounding it, you know the same thing, that the city is protecting this historic district. Yeah, so this is a quiet day in Yaletown. Lots of one-way streets, a little challenging to drive around, a little challenging to find parking, as it is in many parts of the city. And then you can see somewhere like on Richards here, this is Choices, one of the local grocery stores. These buildings are significantly bigger, and this one is one of the newest, right across the park. But these are more typical sort of modern condominiums, not the loft style that you'll find in the center of Yaletown. People love the access to the outdoors and the seawall. I think the people that are going to be drawn to this value the nightlife. It's not the quietest part of downtown. I need to forewarn you, if you want quiet, that is more Cole Harbour and some areas of the West End as well. But you get access to the outdoors, again, super central because you are in the downtown core.
Just real quick, if you're getting any kind of value out of this video, I really appreciate a thumbs up so other people can find this video just like you. Number 4 is downtown.
All right, and so the actual downtown is this yellow area, and most of that is going to be, it's not residential, but there are some residential buildings built in there. Most of it is office building. You have Pacific Center Mall in there. You have shopping along Robson Street. This is an area that, you know, dies down a little more than the other areas. This is sort of the more traditional downtown where it dies down at night a little more than the other parts. But there are some condominium options, and if you want to be at the very heart of the city, it's not a bad place to find some options. And you can see right here, we're at the corner of Georgia and Granville, and lots of shopping. Most of these are office, actually all of these except for that building in the background are office buildings. So not too many residential options, and this area is incredibly busy during the day. You're going to see a lot of commuters. I'm just heading down Granville to find, there's a residential building right there, the Hudson. It's built right on top of a SkyTrain station, super convenient, and on top of a shopping mall too. So that's a little unusual in Vancouver, but yeah, a lot of nice options. But not as many as you're going to find in Yaletown, in the West End, and in Cole Harbour, just to give you an idea of what this part of the city is like.
Number 5 is Gastown, Chinatown.
And so that's pretty much this zone over here. It's the area that we're known for when we get some bad press for the downtown Eastside. Homelessness, it's not glitzy and glamorous. It can be troubling to people. So there are things that you see in this area that can be quite disturbing if you haven't lived in a big city before. And I know many people in Vancouver avoid this area completely, but it is an area that's seeing a lot of new development. And it's been slowly changing over the last 30 years or so. I don't want to get too political here, but I don't see this changing too much in the near future. It's the homelessness problem in Vancouver is a really significant one. And so many people are trying to do good, but it's such a complicated problem that it can't be changed overnight, and maybe never. But that's the reality of this neighborhood. And so you have to be comfortable with a lot of grit. And the people that live in this area that are the have-nots, they're people too. and they're part of the neighborhood. When you move there, you become part of that neighborhood. And there's some degree of interaction between all the communities that live in the neighborhood. In my experience, there's nothing really to be afraid of. Yes, there's going to be petty crime, but there's honestly petty crime in all parts of downtown and in all parts of the city. And I have to qualify this by saying I'm also a fairly large male, that I've never been fearful moving around in this area. At most, you're going to be asked for some money or offered some drugs or offered other things. And all you have to do is say no and move on, give something if you want to or not. Most of the people that are here have issues of their own and they're kind of keeping to themselves. So there's some really interesting buildings, though, I have to say, and interesting options. Prices in this area are a little bit lower, a little more affordable, but it's also a very trendy area. And so as many places, you know, that gentrification process happens, kind of the cool businesses move into the area. And that's what's been happening in the Gastown, Chinatown area for the last 10, 15 years or so. And then with it comes some pretty cool, interesting buildings and new developments at price points that are much more affordable than other parts of the city. So if you have an open mind and are open to it, this can be an area where there is some opportunity. There isn't as much orientation towards nature, I would say. It is pretty urban. Really need a vehicle in any of these locations, but especially in this area. But you're still so close to Stanley Park or over here to the beaches, getting down here to the seawall to Falls Creek. And to the north, there's also Crab Park, and there's no beach there, but it's amazing views. Actually, let's just take a quick look at what that looks like. It's a park that not too many people in Vancouver actually frequent too often, which is a shame because I think it's probably one of the more beautiful venues. Wait, did I say there was no beach here? It might have been a while since I've been to Crab Park, but yeah, no, there is a beach. I'm not sure how much you'd want to swim there, but yeah, absolutely, there is a beach in Crab Park and a very active port right next door. And over here you have the cruise ships, but this is just right on the doorstep of the downtown Eastside. This is the corner of Main and Hastings. So this is kind of the epicenter of the downtown Eastside. You can see people living kind of camped out. Some great new buildings and developments. Like that one right there, that's the Woodwards building. Kind of it was at the forefront of new development on the downtown east side at Gastown. And now we're getting a little further into Gastown. These are some older loft style buildings that are fantastic as well and offer some affordability. But there's lots of options in this area. You just have to be comfortable with a little bit of that grit. And if you are, then you can find some opportunities that, good value in downtown Vancouver.
And there you have it. That's what living in downtown Vancouver is like. So now you're going to have a really good idea of where you want to live in downtown Vancouver, but more importantly, I think probably some ideas of where you're not going to want to live. That was really the entire point of this video. I hope you got some value out of it. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos just like this. I do put out videos about living in the city of Vancouver every single week. And also, I am a real estate agent in Vancouver. If you're thinking of moving here, I can help you, just like the hundreds of people I've helped move to the city of Vancouver in my 15-year career. Just starts with a conversation, no pressure, just a conversation. So once again, thank you for sticking out this entire video. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you on the video next week.